Hello everyone, my name is Dorian and welcome to Red Bull Ring. We are with the LMP2 doing the Sprint Fix series, and what a joy it is to drive here. It's just so much fun. The sprint setup actually works quite well here, the fixed one. My brake bias is 49.5. I find that to be the sweet spot for me, where I have enough turn-in and without losing the rear end or locking up the rear tires, because I find it pretty easy to lock up if you go too far to the back. That's just how I do things here, and I'm just gonna show you guys the lap real quick, and then I'm gonna take you guys corner by corner. So if you enjoy it, leave a like. If you want to see more track guides and race videos, then subscribe to the channel. Let's get on track. Okay, so we're coming up to turn number one. Let's look for a braking point. It's going to be slightly before the 100. You can brake a little bit later than that, but it's kind of risky. First thing you want to know about this corner and the second corner and the third one is you want to use the red and white curb on the braking. You don't want to use the green stuff. There's no grip there. You're going to start locking up a lot easier if you try to use it. So, and there's off tracks to take into consideration. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to use all of the red and white curb. Use as much of it as you can. As you can see, I got the car. If we'll go to a chase view, got the car pretty much all the way on it. That's going to put almost 2/3 of the car on the curb as I brake. And I'm going to do that again for turn 2 and turn 3. That's going to give me the best line possible and plenty of grip. And I'm going to start braking, I would say, yeah, let's call it the 120. The 120 is usually the sweet spot for turn 1, 2, and 3, by the way. Peaking at around 100%, gradually releasing. I'm staying on brakes for a long time here because we're going uphill, so we can brake late and brake very hard. You can see me staying on brakes for a very long time. Reaching the 50, we're going to start releasing it a little bit more, all the way down to second gear, and now I'm going to initiate the turn-in. As I do, gradually release it towards trail braking, getting the rotation done early. You can see I'm already aimed towards the apex, and right before I reach it, I'm already back on the power. So this is as early as you want to be on the power. That's going to give you a lot of speed on the straight. There's a huge straight here. You just want to be very, very early. So I scrubbed off a little bit too much speed on entry, just so I'll be very early on the power on exit, build up the revs, so I'll have a very fast car throughout the straight. You can see as I mount this curb around 50%, and as I open up the wheel back to 100 pretty much immediately. And I'm going to let the car run all the way to the sausage curb here. I'm going to mount it with my left tires. This is the optimal line. If you go over it and touch the red stuff, it might be an off track, but it's very, very bouncy. That's the important bit. So it's going to slow you down dramatically for the exit. Now, you can stay on its right, the right of the sausage curb, the yellow stuff, but I think it's a little bit slower. You might want to take advantage of the whole track. So that's pretty much how I do it. And from this point on, just taking short routes. So staying on the inside here, and then aiming the car towards the left. And I want to line up the car very quickly because I want a straight car for braking here. So already at the 150, you can see I got a straight car. And I got the car exactly where I wanted. So mounting the red and white curb. Just lining it up. You can see micro corrections with the wheel, making sure it's as straight as possible. It's so easy to lock up on this corner because it's a very steep uphill braking zone, and you're using a ton of brakes, so a little bit of wheel movement here and just gonna lock up the rears or the front, in fact. So braking around the 120 again. I say this time it's maybe the 130, I don't know, something like that. I like braking a little bit earlier here. It just prevents the lockups, not overheating the tires, makes it much easier for the exit because still you have a huge straight after this one. Again, peaking at 100%, staying on it for a long time, gradually and slowly releasing it. We're about 65%, 70% at this point on the 50 mark. Downshifting all the way into first gear right now. So that just put us in first. And as I do, I'm already at 50%, and now I'm going to initiate the trail brake as I turn in the wheel. I'm not sure how much you want to clip this curb early. You kind of want to have a late apex here, or as late as you can without scarving off too much speed. Your rear tires, your rear right specifically, is going to be slightly in the air here. As you go on the power, you're going to hear it spin, but the diff is pretty loose, so it's not gonna kick you out too much. Just keep a straight wheel. Setup is not 100% optimal for this track. Obviously, this is a fixed series, and you can see me going to around 40%, just building up the revs. First gear here is 138 kilometers an hour, something in that region. So 66 kilometers an hour. It's very, very low RPM. You have no RPM, and all of the power in this car is in the high rev range. Sorry for touching the mic. So all the power is in the high rev range. You have no power coming in here. So even if you feel like you don't need to accelerate, start accelerating because the car won't push you wide. There's no power here. You're just trying to build up the revs. Your rear tire, your rear right is starting to build up a little bit of a wheel spin there. And that's going to help you build up the revs as you open up the wheel back to 100%. Using all of the curb on the way out and a little bit of the green stuff, not a problem. Don't mount the sausage curb here. It's not productful. It's not useful. And again, taking a short route, so going to the inside here and inside the left-hander. And again, we're going to mount the red and white curb fully. Brake to 120. This time we're going downhill. Going to brake very hard again, but not going to peak for as long. So I'm not going to stay at 100% for as long as I did earlier, because going downhill is a little trickier. So I'm going to release a little bit earlier. At the 50, I'm already at around 80%. 50, now into first gear and starting to trail brake into the corner, flipping the inside curb. When is my turning point here? That's interesting. I want to see where I turn in the car. Not a real reference here. Maybe as this barrier kind of ends on my right. You're already looking at this direction, so you might be able to spot it. When I start to turn in the car, flipping the curb, you don't want to clip it too much. There is an off track there. Trail braking all the way into it, and then I'm going to start accelerating back out again in first gear. You can see how long the trail brake is. I'm just making sure the car doesn't wash out. You want to stay on the rubber here. The rubber is on the inside. You don't want to let the car run wide. You can see it's brighter here. It's a little wider than this area. That's because there's no rubber here. So if you wash out too much, you're just gonna have a hard time putting the power down. The car will kick out. As you can see, you squeeze in the throttle. You're in first gear. You have to be gentle. Squeeze in the throttle very gently as I open up the wheel back to 100%. Using all of the curb on the way out and gently moving the car to the right here. Now, this time we're going to use the green stuff as well for the entry because it's not a hard braking zone. I just want to open up this corner as much as I can. It did create a little bit of understeer, so keep that in mind. If you only stay on the red stuff, you'll have sharper turn in, but you know, the corner will be closed a little bit more. So this time I had a little bit of understeer, but the corner was very open, so I was able to carry the speed around the outside and didn't clip the inside curb. You can go about it two ways. I'm gonna start braking. I would say we have the 100, yeah, the 75, so right before the 50, maybe 70 is fair, and not high peak at all. I'm just gonna downshift into third gear and late downshift into second. Start accelerating back out again in third gear. So that's what I like doing here. I like to basically take third gear into the entry. Then as I start to understeer, there's a moment where you start to understeer here. Second gear really helps with that. So right here, you can see me just downshifting to second. And right before I start accelerating, I'm going to use third. Because second gear has a tendency to kick the backhand out here. And we're through. Letting the car rush out all the way to the outside here. And there's a little bit more than that actually is an off track. So I think if you put your right side beyond this green and white curb and put it here on the AstroTurf, that could be an off track. And I'm going to start braking as I start to turn in. So we're going to brake and turn in. Not a high peak at all because of that. So around 40%. And immediately trail braking. And here I actually do like to clip it just a little bit. Kind of late. I did miss it. But when you go back early on the power here, the backhand, this is in third gear by the way, the backhand has a tendency to kind of dance a little bit. And that really helps mitigate the understeer that you have. So you keep thinking, all right, I'll wait a little bit more and then I'll accelerate. But if you're early on the power here, the car will rotate much nicer. And you have a pretty open exit. You can take advantage of that. The off tracks here are not that strict at all. So you can really take advantage of them. You can see I'm having to open up the wheel abruptly so the backhand doesn't get too loose. And I'm using pretty much all of the track that's available to me, including the AstroTurf on the right. Maintain stability the whole way through. Now we're gonna downshift into fourth for this one. So we're gonna brake right before the 50. We have the 100 here. Let's call it, yeah, let's call it 75. This time it's around 75, something like that. And I'm gonna peak pretty high, but I'm gonna release very quickly. I want to maintain my speed. You can see how quickly I'm releasing it, and I'm gonna start to turn in. It's very important to start to turn in quite early here. A lot of people like to turn in late, and I tried that, and just very easy to wash out a little bit too much. So I want to turn in early and gently here. I'm gonna start to turn in right before the 50. And as I do, I'm releasing the brakes to trail braking just a little bit. You can see all the way into the curb. And as I mount the curb, I'm clipping it. A little bit more than that is an off track. You don't want to take advantage of it too much. And I'm squeezing the throttle. So you can see I'm taking it to around, I don't know, 60, 70, 80, 90%. Then waiting a little bit before I go back to 100. Just so I'm looking straight on and I'm waiting for a point where I know I'm not going to get an off track here. You're definitely abusing the track limits, but a little bit more than that is an off track. So you don't want to do it too much. It's a nasty off track, but you have to abuse it. There's no speed if you don't. So yeah, braking point here. We're gonna brake into third gear. You can take it in second. I find third gear more reliable, and there's no real speed difference. Yeah, braking point. So unreal visual reference here. I'm just looking at the apex really and trying to guess. So right around here. Keeping the car straight. I got the corner nice and open here because look at how far left I am. And peaking around 60%, downshifting into third, trail braking into the apex, and very early on the power. So from this point on, I'm already back on the power, taking advantage of the track limits again. So I'll show you from the outside the whole stint here. This little corner. So yeah, taking advantage of this inside curb. Pretty much as you can cut it without getting off track. A little bit more would be an off track. You can see I'm modulating a little bit because I'm trying to prevent the car from washing out too wide here. You can see I'm still hesitant. And now I'm back at 100%. Still rolling the car very hard. So I avoid the off track and time penalty they have there on the exit. And that's going to give us a 120.155. I hope you guys enjoyed this track guide. If you did, please leave a like. And if you want to see more track guides and race videos, then subscribe to the channel. I'm going to use this car this week to get up to 5K, or as my second episode of trying to get to 5K. This will be the star of the next episode. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.